Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be with you, Mark, and to my IJS meditation family, which I really do think of all of you as an extended family, all of us spread out as far as we are. So it's my practice to always start with a moment, with a moment of gratitude. And Mark, thank you for reminding me of how long we've been engaged in this endeavor together. Really beautiful to imagine all the times that we've been sitting together, how expansive that is. So I'm incredibly grateful, and I'm sure many of you join me in that for the work that IJS does and for bringing us together, particularly in this way. And today, I'm really hoping that and praying that each of you feels a strong connection to your intention throughout our time together, and that you feel bolstered, that your intention feels bolstered by this time that we're together. And I'd like to offer to bring in another intention, just in the aim of pointing toward gratitude for IJS and anything, anyone else that has brought you to being part of this community. So as we sit together, if this resonates for you, perhaps you can bring to mind the people, the teachings, the places, and the moments that have carried us to this breath in this time. And to do that with a sense of gratitude. So as we continue to settle in, let's just take a moment for receiving. I'm going to share a poem by Derek Walcott. It's called Love After Love, and you can use this poem as a time just to settle into your space and to feel into your body and settle into your seat. This is Love After Love, Derek Walcott. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror. And each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. Just take a few breaths with that settling and with the invitation to greet yourself arriving at your own door. It's a teaching that I'm going to share with you, and just want to put worry aside as I do so. All of the poems and resources and even the themes that I'll share from today's sit are part of a source sheet that you'll receive at the end of the sit. But the invitation and reason why I don't share that during this time is for you to actually give the gift of presence to yourself. So just know that the source sheet will be there for you at the end, and you'll have access to all of the resources. And just rest in the presence of breath that arises in this moment, and allow yourself to be present with it. So our teaching for today is a story. And it's a story about Rebbe Hirschleib of Jülich, who left home as a young man to live in exile. And this meaning of exile is to go somewhere unfamiliar. And the idea is that by doing that, he was able to connect with and to have a deeper understanding of the experience of exile that Shekhinah represents. So he left with only a small bundle on his back, and he met a farmer who asked him, "Where are you going, young man?" And Rabbi Hirschleib answered, I'm going to look for work." And the farmer responded, "Isn't there work in your village where you're from? Isn't there work in your home?" And Hirschleib said, "Oh, it's hard to find it." The farmer said, "You're mistaken. A determined person will find work even in his home." So later in life, when Rebbe Hirschleib became a recognized Rebbe, he would tell this story to his Hasidim. And he would say, when someone truly deeply desires to serve God, it's possible to find this work even at home. So understanding this teaching, there's a little bit of a key to understanding this teaching, and that is that word work. And in the story, there could be an assumption that it's just that he's looking for labor and for parnasa, for income, right? When we think about work in our secular society, that's generally what we're thinking about. But the kind of work that's alluded to in this teaching is much deeper than that. And that's the work that's associated with the word avodah. And that's work that is infused with holy intention. Can mean prayer, can mean sacrifice. So many layers that can be added on top of that. So as we sit today, some of the themes that I'll take us through in our guided portion of the sit, and then you're invited to possibly explore on your own during our silent piece, are the themes of exile, the theme of Shekhinah, the theme of home, the question, where are you going? And the theme of work in the sense of avodah, work that is infused with holiness, with divinity, with inspiration. And with that, let's do a little bit of inspiration ourselves. And we'll do some breathing, bringing spirit in, breathing in and out. Allow yourself to settle. Notice your seat. Bring balance into your foundation. If you need to move a little bit to do that, that's just fine. Invite balance between the heaviness of the foundation of your sitting place and the rising of the spine out of that sitting place. Let that rising be gentle and natural, not forced. Inviting a firm back and soft belly. Noticing the shoulders and jaw, places where many people hold a lot of tension, just checking in with the scaffolding parts of those places, the bones, the bone structure, and then allowing the muscles just to rest into the bones. And perhaps there's a part of your body that is asking for a little bit of extra attention for you. Wherever that is, you can use that same image, noticing the structural parts of your body, the strong bone parts of your body, and then allowing the parts that have the ability to soften into the scaffolding of the skeletal structure. Just take a few breaths there. You can allow your eyes to either close gently or keeping your head at a really comfortable place, just allowing the eyes to come to a soft focus a few feet in front of you. And as we continue to sit, just inviting for yourself this word of home, what that might mean for you. Could mean the body, it could mean a place where you live, could mean dear friends or loved ones in whose presence you feel a sense of home. Perhaps it's a certain spot on earth. And just breathing into the sense of home as it exists in this body, right now, right here, without any need to fix or change anything. And take just a couple of breaths, coming home to the body as it is. And as the mind wanders, as it will, greet the mind on the road and just gently ask the mind, where are you going? Perhaps the mind is wandering into exile to understand the qualities of Shekhinah. You can invite the mind to come right back home into the body. And to rest alongside the breath. And as we do so, just acknowledging that each breath is a divine gift. And that right there can be our avodah. That can be our work for this moment. Greeting the self, greeting the mind if it travels down a road, asking where are you going, inviting back home, resting in the body, in the breath, in the divinity of the breath. And we'll sit in silence for 7 minutes. Offer a bell at the beginning and the end. Coming back to the breath, to the body. When you're ready, becoming aware of the room around you, and gently opening your eyes and coming back to the screen if you'd like. We'll close with a favorite poem, The Guest House by Rumi. I'll admit that I searched around to try and bring you something new, but it was so perfect that I came back home to an old favorite. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Thank you so much, Kerith. As always. Friends, let's seal the practice as we do each day. Those of you who are in mourning or observing your art site, if it's your custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish, welcome to do so. If you're not reciting Kaddish, please stay present to support those who are for a few moments. If you're reciting Kaddish, you can put the name or names of anyone you're honoring today in the chat now or afterwards. And please join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Yitkadosh, Rabba, Yama, Dira, Hivite, Yamufa, Kute, Bechayechon, Bimechon, Bechal Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uizman, Karib, Yishne, Rabba, Barach, Yolam, Ulame, Amaya, Yisparach, Yishtabach, Yipa'ar, Yitraman, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitalev, Yitalal, Shemei Bekushat, Brichu, Eila, Mikol, Birchata, Shirachat, Tata, Venechamata, Milan, Ba'alma, Shlama, Rabba, Shamaya, Kayin, Mami, Yisrael, Yes, Shalom, Hallelujah, Shalom, Hallelujah, Kol Yisrael, Kol Yosef Yevel, Amen. Amen.
Peace.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. And if you're leaving us now, hope you'll join us tomorrow. We'll be led by Rabbi Robin Damsky tomorrow. And on Friday, Rabbi Dorothy Richmond will be with us to lead us to sit together into Shabbat. And of course, we hope you stay with us for conversation and a chance to reflect on today's practice and teaching. You can, if you like, if you prefer, you could just turn off the sound on your device and continue to sit with Cantor Kerith's beautiful guidance, or you can join us. And if you have a question you'd like to ask, please put it in the chat and write question, all in caps. Let's start at the end, Kerith. The guest house, Rumi's guest house. In the early days of the daily sit, we refer to it constantly, but I don't think we've had it for a while. So I actually really appreciated you bringing it back. And I see at least one person says in the chat, never heard it. So
I saw that. That made me so happy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's great. And the truth is, I've heard it many times, and it hits me every single time. It's so, and it really relates beautifully to this theme of homecoming,
Yeah.
exile, and avodah service.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a lot in it. It's also, as I listened to it today, the guest house was thinking about. It's a very high bar that Rumi is setting there
Yeah.
to, well, first of all, to recognize, uh, challenging feelings and aspects of ourselves that we would probably prefer not to experience or notice. Shame, malice, meanness.
Yeah.
And he says not only, welcome them at the door, but, laugh, and,
Yeah.
greet them with a smile. Um, so, I mean, the overall theme today of, you know, I guess there's no place like, click your heels together. There's no place like home, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about how, from that story, that Hasidic story, by the way, it's on the source sheet, which Rachel kindly shared. So everyone can take a look at that. Um, Something about over the course of a lifetime, earlier in life, thinking, "Oh, I got to get out and explore. I'm not going to find what I'm looking for here, right?" And that there's something about this process of, and it's a theme of a lot of Hasidic stories, I think, right? Of what you're looking for is right there, is right here,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's also big teaching and mindfulness practice.
Hmm.
Um, On the other hand, there's the other hand, that exile, galut, is a big part of your
Yeah.
spirituality. So for
Right.
me today, I actually wound up applying it in the exhale and the inhale. Like I was thinking about the exhalation
Mm.
as exile, was letting go and kind of
Mm.
outward movement, and the
Hmm.
inhalation was this kind of homecoming, and that helped me. This kind of oscillation between exile and home. But I guess I was thinking about just sort of life stages. We have people
Yeah.
different stage of life here, but I wonder about that. I mean, do you feel like how would this land, you think, people for someone in their, well, early 20s, versus someone a little later in the journey?
Yeah.
I know, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think it lands differently for each individual, regardless of age. Based on their own personal experience. I sure know some very, very wise 20-year-olds for whom this would land really beautifully. And I do think that when we're, at least from my experience and other young people who I have the honor of learning from, that the idea of exile and searching for belonging is something that is very, very, very present to many young people, right? And also this idea of like going out into whatever world it might be, or college, or the job market, or that we're putting ourselves, when we put ourselves. It's interesting because, of course, it's all right here, but sometimes it's not until we step outside into unfamiliarity that we recognize the the immediacy of home, the nowness of home, the shelter that home provides, whatever form that home might be in. Could be just the presence of another human, but that allows us the protection and safety, perhaps those
Mhm.
feelings that allow us to connect with the what truly is residing here.
Yeah. Once again, we come back to paradox of, these two truths that sometimes seem in opposition to each other. But Lori's asking this question, which is really a good question. She wrote, "My concept of home includes an embodied sense of Shekhinah, the divine presence imbued in my every cell, companioning. Please help me better understand the idea of Shekhinah as exile and how this construct may be helpful in expanding the sense of home." So there is this idea in Jewish mysticism, I think also even in just a rabbinic Judaism, that the Shekhinah, the feminine indwelling, the divine indwelling aspect of God, um, accompanies the Jewish people in exile from our home, and represented by Rachel weeping for her children. And so Shekhinah kind of is in exile with the people. On the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
like Laurie wrote, Shekhinah really is about that sense of the divine is right here, right now,
Yeah.
right where we are. So, how would you respond to Laurie's question?
So, first of all, I just want to thank Lori so much for asking that question. Yeah, really appreciate this. And I think, Mark, what you said, it was part of what was driving my explanation, and it's embedded in the story, right? The idea that the Shekhinah herself is in exile. And I think you're totally right, Lori. Like, and Mark expressed this as well. Like, our exilic experience allows us to feel that close connection with the Shekhinah. Um, and I think the broader piece of it is that the broader teaching is that exile exists, right? And we're working toward a world where, God willing, where we, all humans, all beings, might just be able to experience being home. Um, and that, I think, is represented by the reunification, right? So that sense of really not having to be in exile anymore from ourselves, from the land, from other humans, from other non-human beings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I was thinking also, Kerith, about came up for me thinking about the El Male Rachamim prayer, the memorial prayer that's said at funerals, graveside. And there's a phrase in that, Shehalach or Halcha La'olama, who has gone, or for the person who's died, who has gone to
Mm-hmm.
their world, to their
Mm-hmm.
home,
Yeah.
as this kind of life, as this journey, constant journey towards home. On the one hand, not to be morbid about it, just
Right.
like that's, part of it is that part of how Jewish tradition frames it, but also that this is really kind of a practice in radical self-acceptance of the
Absolutely.
uniqueness of who we are, right? Of that comparative mind, which is always, judging ourselves in relation to
Mm-hmm.
others. And the essence of this teaching that you're
Yeah.
offering today seems to me to be about, letting go, that maybe that serves some function. Maybe there's something there, but that ultimately we're meant to just sort of be who we are
Yeah.
and embrace that. That Derek Walcott poem is a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful kind of description of that. But then I want to also add, go to the last little bit of time that we have, ask you a little bit about that word avodah, work, which could be translated as work, but also service. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
just self knowledge, self acceptance, coming back to ourselves, but also understanding ourselves as a vessel for service, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Um, how do you understand like that word avodah?
So
As
I have this.
who is a shlichat tzibur, like a cantor, and
Uh,
trains people as prayer leaders, also, right?
yeah. Yes, I was going to answer from a different place because, as I shared with you, and I
Mhm.
mean, it's all the same place, but as I shared with you earlier before we popped on with the rest of the group, I'm just back from a week at a Zen meditation center where I had the opportunity to participate in what's called SAMU, and it's basically just grunt work. So of keeping the place in shape, working in the kitchen, working in housekeeping, sweeping, grounds, all sorts of just really basic work. The idea is that the work is started with an intention and that the work is an extension of practicing presence. And for me, as a Jewish person, that's like experiencing the divine presence in my work practice. And I have to tell you, this when I did this for the first time, it completely changed my life, and changed my relationship. Even though the work that I get to do, it's like, as you said, I get to do the best work in the universe. I have the pleasure of working with wonderful students and teaching them about avodah, about prayer, right? But sometimes we still can get really intense about our work and effortful in a way that's really not helpful. And that was my big lesson in experiencing this kind of work, and allowing for noticing when my effort was taking me away from noticing the divine presence. And so I now have a practice of taking a break from work when I notice that I'm efforting in a way that is really not in connection with that.
How do
So
you, may I ask you, how do you, I get that, but how do you notice
yeah,
that? Say,
how do I notice?
yeah, like what?
Um, Practice.
Oh, oh, there's a thought.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do, I sit every day and then I try to take that with me into work. And I really do try to pay attention to noticing that. And of course, I don't catch it every time, but I for sure give myself a really, nice pat on the back when I do notice it. And then if I'm able to take a break. And if I'm not able to, just to attempt to redirect and to invite that into what I'm doing.
Maybe the last few minutes, I was going to ask you to talk a little bit about what you're doing in LA for those. And I know, yes, there is a little bit of a conflict and overlap in the daily set, but that's fine. Um, just to let people know what you're doing these days,
Yeah.
in terms of your local teaching there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm today actually, because we do meet on Wednesdays. So today we're starting later. We're starting at 10:30, and it's a daily sit that's based on teachings from Sefer Yetzirah, which is the book of creation, the book of formation. I like to think of Sefer Yetzirah as somewhere between magic and and teaching. Um, but the Sefer Yetzirah has a lot to do with the letters and how the letters play a role in creation. And it's really beautiful. The reason I chose to use Sefer Yetzirah as our basis for this group, this mindfulness meditation group that meets weekly, is that we're meeting in a spot that is a used bookstore of Yiddish and Hebrew books slash shul in downtown LA. And so as we sit, it's like the letters are flying all around us. So it's a really beautiful spot to sit. And there's the sits there are a little longer than what we do here. The silent pieces are a little longer than what we do because we meet for a full 45 minutes. So you could
Well,
always pop in after IJS for a few
absolutely.
minutes to close.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I just want to add in Patricia's comment here in the chat, which is I think, a really good coda on our discussion and on today's practice. Without the oscillating process of life and death, joy and grief, exile and return, there is no dynamic process. Without this process, there is no life. That's so beautifully
Yeah.
said, Patricia. And Kerith, want to thank you for uh, giving us this beautiful guided journey through. exile and return and realization of the blessing of coming home. So thank you so much for today and all
Thank you,
you've given
Mark.
over the years. And
Thanks,
thanks,
friends.
Rachel. Yeah. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll hope to see you tomorrow to practice with Rabbi Robin Namsky, and many blessings, everyone. Please stay safe, stay well, take good care.